Coach Matt here. This is the Coach's Handbook.
This the best time, why you wanna be an outcast? Numbers don't lie, you gain a lot from this math class. It takes time to be great, you can learn the lesson. Blood, sweat, and tears, heartbeat of a champion. Big or small, your heart is the biggest weapon. So follow before you lead and water and plant your seeds. When it's all said and done, you be the best they ever seen. So listen to my catalog on this coach's blog.
Hey everybody, Coach Matt here. Just want to let you know we had a little bit of a technical issue with microphones in the very beginning, but we did get that fixed. Enjoy the show. Hey everybody, it's Coach Matt here. Our guest this week has had a long history in the soccer world, from city leagues to semi-pro, and has coached for several travel clubs, high school, and even started his own goalie training school. Coach Brad Conway, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No, thanks for joining us. Can't wait to dive right into this.
Okay.
I kind of got a bunch of your history, and I'm really kind of excited to learn a little bit more about you from your perspective.
All right.
So let's get right into the history, into the very, very beginning. Our country is very well versed in AYSO. You did not play ASO, you played a city league.
Right.
And what is a city league just like ASO? Can you kind of give an explanation of what a city league is?
Sure. Now, let me preface this by saying I was playing in the early 80s. So the difference in what an ASO and a city league was, it's the same premise. Like Little League, kids from all over the city just played on teams, and you called yourself like the Blue Bombers or the Red Rockets or something. You know what I mean?
Orange Crush.
Orange Crush. Yes, it wasn't. And as a matter of fact, I think we were the Blue Bombers. So yeah, it was a city league, that every kid played when you were in grade school on up. So it had the name of the city on there with a soccer ball, and that was it. They provided you with a shirt and you played. So
what city was this in?
This is in Crystal Lake, Illinois. So just a northwest suburb of Chicago,
Okay.
Closer up towards the Wisconsin border.
Awesome. Now, your dad was your first coach, correct?
Sure. And similar, yeah, of course, and similar to ASO and any city league, right? The dad comes on because my kid wants to play, and all his friends come on, and then there's the assistant coach is another dad, So yeah, he became my first coach, which was exciting. So that was good.
Do you think he was harder on you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. That's a very good question. I think him being an athlete himself, I think he always wanted, his sons to succeed athletically, especially being a boy. But I can't, to give you a definitive answer. Maybe he was, and I just sort of repressed it. Yeah, good question. I don't know. Now, I did, we could talk about this at another time, but I did get an opportunity to coach my oldest son when he was younger, and I think he would have a completely different answer for that. So,
can you remember anything special about playing with your dad?
Well, certainly the opportunity to drive along in the car with them, talk about the game before, talk about it after, just sort of have that relationship of father and son, coach and player. I'm sure he gave me great advice. I'm sure he criticized me, which every passionate parent does. But I think it was those intimate moments together were exciting for me. And granted, I was a 8, 9, 10-year-old boy at the time, so I just wanted to go and play, and I'm sure he became white noise at some point. So, but the time spent together, I think, was important.
Very good. So we're back with your dad, but then you moved to a travel club. Finding out that you were not going to play for your dad, what was your feelings on that? Or was it just you know what, I still get to play soccer and it's going to be at a higher level?
Yeah, I think it was that. And I think my dad actually was okay with that. I think he was excited about it as much as I was, because he knew at some point that this was something that I was really passionate about. Now, remember, he was the first one to introduce me to playing goalkeeper. He threw me in the net, and I just fell in love with it. And so I think there was a point where he said, yeah, there's only so far I could go. And so having the opportunity to come play with which became the city league. Now the kids got to move up to the travel team, the quote unquote travel team at the time. So more of an all-star team, I guess is what you would have called it, where we traveled to other cities, obviously. So I think he was okay with it. He knew that I would grow more with another coach and playing with other players than if I continued to stay on his team. So I think he was good with it. I think he was excited as much as I was.
Well, so I know we're going back a long ways,
Sure.
but okay, so you're good with it. You're excited. You're getting ready to go play for a travel team. You meet your coach for the first time.
Right.
What was your experience with that? What was your first thought, first impressions?
Well, he was a short, stout Polish man who spoke with a sort of an accent to it. So for me, that was the first time I ever experienced someone that wasn't like my dad, or wasn't, that was from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So, and having read magazines and watched soccer on TV, if he had an accent from a different country, then he must be a great coach.
He's going to be a pro, right?
He was going to be excellent. So he was this Polish guy. He was great. He came in and he looked the part and he acted the part. And it was cool. So now at this point, I'm 10, 11 years old, and this is crazy. Here's a guy from somewhere that I've only read about in books, is in my little town of Crystal Lake, coming to coach me and coach the rest of the kids on this quote unquote travel team. So it was fun.
You had a couple different travel coaches. Give me one thing that really stuck with you for the rest of your life from one of them or both of them.
I think initially, now, again, I was playing goalkeeper all this time, but listening to them, and both of the coaches came from immigrants from overseas, Germany and Poland, and both of the coaches sort of broadened the idea of what soccer was. It now was more open. There was more tactical stuff going on. You had to read the game differently, and it wasn't this ping pong, kick the ball, chase after it, kick the ball, chase after it. Now you are given systems of play. That's the first time I was introduced to, the traditional 4-4-2, understanding how to play that. So it was, at a young age, it was eye-opening. It was enlightening, because now the game took on a whole different shape. And it's something that I remembered. The idea that you play into space and you play behind the ball, and the whole tactical awareness of the game was quite different than what I was taught early on, or had thought what soccer was at the time. So.
Great. You brought up goalkeeper a couple times. Your dad threw you in goal out of necessity, I'm guessing, at that one point.
Yeah.
And also I've coached ASO at the younger ages. I understand. We try to, as ASO coaches, we try to give kids the chance to try everything. But most people don't like being in goal. Most people avoid it, especially at a young age. I know I was shocked when my daughter at age just before she turned 9 was like, I'm ready for goal.
Yeah.
But what really made you stick through it your whole career? What drew you? What was the draw?
The
for
draw.
goal?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it was just out of necessity. Uh, get in there. If you had a different colored shirt, you were the goalkeeper. You know what I mean? It was go in there and just stop the ball from going in. And that's a lot of how the coaches coached back then. We'll score more goals than them, and the goalkeeper sort of became an afterthought or an irrelevant play. But my dad threw me in, and I was young, and I enjoyed just messing around, and the idea of using my hands, first of all, was something that was kind of cool to me. Um, so diving around and sliding in the mud was something that I enjoyed, but it was seeing in particular games where I could make a dive or I could make a save and stop the ball from going in the back of the net. And there was just this complete deflativeness, if I could use that word, on the sideline parents and the players themselves, where they thought was going to be a goal, it wasn't. And so there was sort of this backwards excitement for me, like, oh, interesting. So that sort of lit the fire, and I just kind of kept doing it over and over and over again. And maybe it was a sort of this sinister sort of idea that I could take the joy away.
Our new goalie.
Yes, exactly. They thought it was going to be something, and it turned out to be the catalyst to why I wanted to continue to do that way. And from there on, I just played that way. And the idea also, after a while, that I didn't have to run up and down the field for 35, 40 minutes. I could just, do my thing there and just watch the rest of the game kind of became a motivator as I got older as well.
That's why I played sweeper. For the same reason. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's turn the tables. It's exciting
Okay.
when you stop a goal. You did not have a shutout your entire life. So how did you get past those goals? How did you get past,
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but it's a huge mental strain on a goalie. I've seen it my whole life, where they literally take, everybody gets credit for taking the shots, right? Everybody gets credit for that, but the goalie also gets credit for missing the ball, and no one blames the defense, right?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I always say this to my keepers: if you're going to continue to play this position, you have to have thick skin and a short memory, because you are going to be picking the ball out of the net more times than not. It's just an aspect of that position. It's part of the game. And I also have to remind them that, look, there's 10 other players on that field that the ball got passed before it got to you.
Right.
And that goes into part of the lessons that we teach about the tactics of the game and how to learn how to read it. But I think to go back to your question, when I was younger, it fired me up. It stirred the competitiveness in me. Is that kid just scored a goal on me, and I didn't want him to do it again. I was never humiliated. Sure, there were times where, you had young kids like, well, you should have stopped that, and you kind of feel deflated in that aspect. But for me, it became a motivator, and less of a, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I actually wanted to do it more, and I challenged, the other players on the other teams to come at me. So it really struck something in me, and I think that also lends to why I continue doing it as well. So
great advice. All you future goalies out there, I hope you're listening. That's pretty much the best way we can say it right now. I love that you said intimidation. My daughter's goalie gloves actually are skeleton hands. And she wants that for the intimidation factor. So
it's a unique position, and we'll talk about this. You're kind of, sometimes you're on an island, it's like a pitcher in baseball. All eyes are on you when it comes down to it.
Absolutely. So there is a lack of coaches dedicated to keepers at the younger levels, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
Hmm.
But we're still in your youth. I mean, you haven't even hit high school at this point. So
Right.
what, was there a coach that decided to focus on you as a keeper, even if they weren't an expert at it?
Hmm.
And what was kind of the things that they told you and talked to you about?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm trying to go back to think if there was one in particular coach that did that. I had, when I was younger, I think one of my first coaches on my first travel team understood that the position of goalkeeping was uh, a key to the success of the rest of the team. Um, so he understood that, but could he teach me anything? No. I mean, I think goalkeeper coaches at the time weren't a thing. Coaches focused on the field players and how they were going to do that. So a lot of it was just me kind of coaching myself, reading books, magazines, watching the TV that I could. But the coaches understood the importance of the position and try to keep me as confident as possible in my role as a goalkeeper. Suggestions on distribution, perhaps, maybe, or an idea of positioning or coming out sooner, coming out later. Um, Simple things like that, that as a young player, at the time you're frantically playing and you're not mature enough to see what's happening around you. And so some of those coaches kind of honed in on that and showed me, look, these are some of the things. So, but yeah, it wasn't until, I got older that I understood those things. I hope that answered your
Yeah,
question.
absolutely it did. And it'll actually come back up here in a little bit.
Okay.
Uh, you made varsity your freshman year, correct?
Yes.
So what was, I mean, I think it's funny what you wrote me was you knew you were going to make it, but it was not more of you knew you were going to make it. It was more of you're young, right? And you
Yeah.
just think you're going to make it. So you made the team. You're 13, 14 years old. What was it like,
Yeah.
walking in with kids that are 17, 18 years old and being on the field with kids those bigs, especially being in goal,
Yeah.
especially not being your full size yet,
Right.
So what was it like?
Yeah. I think I played with a cloud of ignorance, you know. It just was one of those things. I don't think I ever really truly thought of the idea that these kids were that much older than me. Um, I think, and I don't want to say I played with arrogance, but I think I played with confidence. I think those are two different concepts. Um, uh, so it was, and remember, I knew a lot of the boys, older boys from the all-star travel team that I played on. So that helped a little bit. So there was that introduction to the other players through them.
Sure.
Um, but the ball was still round, the field was still the same, the goal was still the same. So I knew what my role was. Um, and and I was comfortable with what I did. So again, I think it was a little bit of cloud of ignorance at the time, naivete, being as young as I was. I just wanted to play, and you're right. My physical nature was nowhere near them, but I was confident in my technical abilities at the time, and it was quite unique that I was coming in because I was truly a goalkeeper up until then. Most other high school goalkeepers, whereas we thought just, were physical, they were maybe a wrestler on the high school team or basketball or whatever it was, and they were back there, they're playing that. So it was something that I was comfortable doing. And I think the coaches at the time saw that too, that we have a person who's dedicated, who has who thinks like a goalkeeper, who was training themselves to be a goalkeeper. And I think
Had
that
years of experience as a
up until
goalkeeper.
that point, yeah, that's all I did. And I think that again helped the decision, and it helped me play as well.
So after high school, well, one of the most interesting things I read about your story, and for those of you that don't know his story, I mean, he came out, he quit soccer after high school, correct?
Yeah,
For the
yeah,
most part, within
yeah,
a couple years, you got asked to play for a junior college.
right.
Then you left again, and then you kind of got picked up with different leagues, and all the way up to semi-pro, correct?
Right.
So I would love to hear about your experiences in the different leagues, but I am really intrigued of how many times you actually left soccer and what kept you coming back.
Yeah. Okay. So high school it was fun. It was great. Again, it was in a small town, Crystal Lake. We played all the schools around there. I had the opportunity to go play with a travel team out of Chicago when I was 14, after my freshman year. And I would travel to Chicago and I'd play, and we traveled all over the Midwest and into Canada, and I met a lot of different people, and really, really started focusing on what it took to be a goalkeeper, but also the type of coaches that I was getting with that particular travel team. So that was a great experience. Played well, learned a lot. And then high school came and I had no aspirations of playing after that. I wanted to just kind of go, quote unquote, find myself, as they would say. I just kind of
Yep.
wanted to be something, because I had played soccer. I was a year-round athlete in soccer from fall to indoor to spring. And I did that all 4 years on these travel teams, and then trained in the summer. So it was all I did. I missed out on a lot when I was playing in high school in the travel. I don't have any regrets about that, because it is who I am today, which we'll get to why I jumped and came back. So no aspirations at high school. And then I moved to Arizona. I grew up in Illinois, moved to Arizona, warmer weather. It was nice. And a couple years out of high school, and said, you know what, I'm just going to jump on a club team out there. I was younger still, so I jumped on a younger club team just to mess around again. And a city league, again, I guess you could call it. But I just had the experience of playing, and because it was something that was always in my blood, and I knew it was something I was always wanted to do, and I wasn't attached to anything at the time. And it just so happens that on one of these games, the referee was one on the coaching staff at a junior college, and reffed one of my games. Apparently I was well enough and impressed him enough that he asked me to come play for his school. After that game, I enrolled. He gave me a scholarship, so I played 2 years at the junior college out there. Granted, there were other keepers on the team, much younger than I was, right out of high school. So I was the older man, the older player coming in, sort of the gruff guy. And I had to battle my way back to starting position again, which was a wonderful experience, and enjoyed doing that. And then again, just decided, you know what, I'm going to not play. I have other interests, which was art. So the dichotomy is that I have always loved art, ever since I was a young boy, reading and drawing and painting, and took lessons, and it became a part of who I was, and left junior college, and again messed around for a while, having fun, and decided, well, if I'm going to get serious at some point, I need to go to school. So I moved back to Illinois and went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, studied art, worked with working artists out there, and studio experience, and did all that. School of the Art Institute of Chicago does not have any athletics.
Nope.
So there's no soccer team. And I didn't even think, I'm sure there were, city leagues playing, but I just didn't want to do it anymore. and I just was going to do the art thing, and I did the art thing, and then I moved back to Arizona. Did the art thing over there. Um, Met my wife at the time, and she said she was met my wife. Yep, and she said she was going to move to California for a job in San Francisco, and if I wanted to come along, I could. And so I did. I wasn't attached to anything. And I thought, great, what an experience. I'll go to San Francisco, and I got a job at an art gallery, was an art dealer. And then the bug came back and bit me again. And I said, gosh, I'm still young. I know I can do this. So I'm what, 23 at the time, maybe? No. Sorry. I'm 26 now, 26, 27 after all this is going on. And I look, and San Francisco, the San Francisco Soccer League is one of the oldest soccer leagues in the country, with many levels. And so this is, again, I'm 26, so this is 96, 97 maybe. So I'm back there, and I decide, I'm going to take another shot at it. And I get an opportunity to go try out for the San Francisco Vikings, on their first division team. So I try out, and the coach says, yeah, we want you to play in the first division team, but I think you need to go play for our premier team. So I went and I played for the premier team. So I'm 26 years old, 27 years old, playing with 18, 19-year-old kids. So now the tables have turned a little bit. I'm older, but I've got much more experience. So we played, and that was a great team. The coaches, again, this is an old club. A lot of the coaches were old soul coaches that had played with the club, and they were now I'm really, really learning the game. They're putting together sessions that I had no experience, with before. Every nuance and every aspect of the game was taught tactically. We worked on technical abilities, and so I'm now understanding coaching. I'm starting to think about, at some point, this is all going to end. What's going to happen next? And so these coaches were great. They were putting together wonderful sessions where now the goalkeeper's incorporated, and playing from the back, and all the other aspects that go with goalkeeping. And the coaches would come prepared. They had there was a theme to what they were doing for the week. So it was a wonderful club. It was great, and had a lot of success in it. A lot of players went on to do things. Younger players went on to do things at the higher level. So again, remember, this is 96, 97, and I played, well, up until my daughter was born in 2003. So, and again, that changes everything too. Now I'm starting a family. So it was good. Yeah, I got to play on against wonderful clubs, wonderful teams, and the league is still going on, and a lot of these teams are still playing and promoting and producing fantastic players onto the next level there in California.
It was so intriguing to me how soccer is just a draw, right?
Yeah,
and it's just,
well, I always watched it. I always read about it. I talked about it. It's something that's in your blood, right? And any soccer player will say that, regardless. You can be in your 70s and you still think you can get the boots on and go out and play. It's just in you, and it's something that I was always good at. I always had a passion for. So it was always there. And when the opportunity presented itself, I couldn't say no, and it would go on to happen again too. So, yeah.
So you finally made your way, I believe, in Wisconsin, right? You're in Wisconsin, and you decide to sign up as a coach for the first time for a travel club.
Right.
What was it like the first time you were called coach?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So yeah, we left California from San Francisco to LA, and then LA to Madison. And at this point now, I've got 3 kids. And I said, you know what, I saw this passion, but I think I'm going to divert my passion into the coaching. And I joined this team. And first time I got called coach, um, it was surreal because I was always the one saying, "Hey, coach." And now I've got younger kids coming to me saying, "Hey, coach." And the tables were turned a little bit because instead of me asking the questions and getting the answers I wanted, I was now getting the questions asked to me and hopefully answering the questions that they had asked. So it was a cool experience. I mean, it was a moniker that I wore proudly and to this day still do. I was, young, and it was fun. It was challenging, um, but it was good.
Our coach, my first interview with Coach Dan Bully said that the title of coach is a sign of respect, and you've earned it, right?
Oh,
You've gone through your time, and it's almost like you always see chefs say it too, and it's like, hey
yeah,
coach, even when we're talking normally, it's just
right.
you've put all this work into it, so
Yeah, and when we talk to other coaches, we call him coach, right?
exactly.
And that's true what Dan said. I mean, it is because coming up as a player, I certainly I was taught to respect my coaches, and that truly was something that was earned on their part. And when I was called that, I never thought of it as a sign of respect. It was just part
The
of
culture.
the culture, you know. And I still think that way today. It's part of the culture. I'm humbled by it for sure. So, but yeah, it is a respectful thing.
So one of the things you've was it last year or the year before you started coaching high school?
Right.
Uh, um, Congratulations, by the way. I saw that
Thank
and I
you.
was really excited for you.
Thank you.
Um, Even though it's going to be the school that we're going to go against. Uh, we're on the other side of this
You're on the
town,
other side.
but knowing that you've coached travel and now you've had a little bit of high school under your belt, what do you see in differences between, I mean, from a coach's standpoint,
Sure.
obviously as a player, there's differences, but
Sure.
what's the difference as a coach?
Well, it's quite a unique experience, especially having come from coaching in Wisconsin, coming from Madison, where there was essentially two clubs within the Madison area, maybe another handful on the outskirts, and all the good kids played there. Now coming to Michigan and having coached through the clubs coming up through there throughout the years. Now you're in high school, and last year I was able to head coach the JV team at Portage Central, and you're now coming in with the uh, idea that all these kids are playing at a club somewhere. They've all played at a club, and there's lots of clubs to play at around here. And they're coming with the experiences from those particular coaches, from those particular clubs. Great coaches, great clubs at any level. And they're all coming in with, well, I was trained this way, or I was taught this way. This is what this one coach told me. This is, what this coach told me. So now you're having to work with all those different personalities, all the backgrounds that they have had, and try and get a train of thought that, yeah, that's great. Some of your coaches were really fantastic. Others, I think probably have done a little better job. And now you're trying to get them to put all that aside and buy into what you're selling them, so to speak. They're having to assimilate into a system that every kid from every different club has to come in and work with. You're rethinking the game. Um, but as a coach, you're not dismantling everything that they've learned just so that they can do yours. You have to understand each individual player uniquely and how are they going to fit in with the system. And I don't want to use the word system, but how they're going to fit in with the program for the next 4 years. Different personalities, different types of play. But what's great is the kids at that age that I got to coach, freshman, sophomore, they're very malleable. They love the sport. I was constantly getting questions. What do I do to do this? How can I, how does my game change if I do this? So it was refreshing, and it was challenging for me as a coach as well, which lended towards the competitive side of me. Okay, now I'm in a position where I can influence these players positively, and how do we get them to be successful in the end, especially when they're coming from all different club backgrounds,
Sure.
So it was a challenge, but it was rewarding at the same time, and I think the kids had a good time. Hopefully, again, I answered your questions without going too far off.
I think you're spot on. I think that melting pot and the buy-in is a big thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if I could give any advice to a player, it would be trust your coach and trust the coach that you're working with now.
Yeah.
The program that I coach for now is a much different program than many others, and none of the others are any worse or better. They all have their own system, and they all work. But you have to trust the system you're in, or the program you're in, and I think that's spot on.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, these kids come from something that they've learned from their club, whether it's the same club they've been with or they've been jumping to clubs. They come in with their preconceived ideas of it, and for the most part, the kids are really good and respectful, and they see that, playing high school is different than playing club. So
Absolutely. So I'm circling back now to goalkeeper.
Okay.
That is your life.
Right.
So many clubs, most clubs, and you brought this to the point, don't have a goalkeeper coach. We are blessed to have one. I know the clubs that you coached for specifically used you, which is wonderful. But like you said, there are dozens and dozens of clubs around here, and you notice that just like with some of the city leagues or the ASO and stuff like that, you have we need someone in there. Why don't you try it this quarter? Or why don't you try it this half? Why do you think there's still, after how many years, a lack of understanding or desire for having a goalie coach and someone to do that?
Yeah. So I'm removed a little bit from what the clubs are doing now, but I still follow along. I think there's still the mentality. Now you have a lot of players at any club, at any age group. You could have 2 or 3 different, an A, B, and a C team, and there's only going to be so many goalkeepers. Everybody wants to be a Messi or Ronaldo or whatever, because that's where the glory is. And I get it. I want it to be that way when I was younger too. So I think, and so when we're bringing up coaches, I think coaches they're not getting educated to goalkeeping. No, I think that's changing now. But I think when teams are built, they're not starting with the goalkeeper and building around it. You know what I mean? And could be debatable, and I'm open to debating it. But I think the goalkeeper becomes the afterthought for the team. Again, depending on club and depending on what level. Now, in the club situations, you do have a goalkeeper coach, where once a week the teams are sending their goalkeepers anywhere from U12 to U18 to one session. And now this goalkeeper coach is having to facilitate the technical ability of a U12 without boring a U18,
Yep.
and then, but not making it too aggressive for a U13 so that the U18 player gets his work in. And
Gets reps. Yeah.
I think it gets washed down a little bit, and then they go back to their clubs, and then the coaches set up training sessions where we're pelting the goalkeeper, with soccer balls, and what kind of training is he learning from there other than how to be reactionary and all the other stuff. So when the foundation is getting lost. I think that's changing a little bit, again, depending on the club and the level of where you're at within the club is changing. But now I'm starting to see where kids are watching the game more often, and I think they're seeing the uniqueness of a goalkeeper and what he can and cannot do to change or influence the game. And I think the kids are coming forward now. It takes a different sort of mentality to be a goalkeeper too. So I think kids that are aggressive, that have, like I said earlier, that have that thick skin and that short memory, want to be a part of it. And that's something that as a goalkeeper coach myself, is bringing that is a huge advantage already than someone who's just kind of kicking the tires, if that makes sense.
You actually, I love this podcast so far. You're being the fourth one that I've interviewed, because so many times my guests will lead into the next question perfectly. It blends so well. You just mentioned this. It takes something special to be a goalie, or a different type of mentality to be a goalie. So to you as a goalie coach, and as a high school coach and a travel coach and even a player, what do you feel it truly takes to be a goalie? And what would be one piece of advice you would give to a goalie or an up and coming goal?
It's a good question. I think one of it is you have to be mentally strong, first of all. Mentality is part of it. It's a huge part of it, because there's a lot being thrown at you at a quick pace. So being mentally strong is part of it. The physical aspect of it, we can't control that so much as young players because we mature. But as we get older, certainly we can control the physical aspect of it. You have to be aggressive. You can't be afraid. You're coming out on one-on-ones, or you're going for a high ball, sometimes you're diving 6 feet in the air. You have to be aggressive, and you can't be afraid or timid, because a lot of times you're going to get hurt that way. But I think it's knowing that you are a different player than that striker that's up top there, or you're having to be quicker, faster. You're having to read the game at a different pace. So, the mental aspect of it is one. It used to be that a goalkeeper was this crazy psycho. When I was coming up, they were always this big, they would shave their heads and stuff like that. And because they thought goalkeepers are crazy, diving at somebody's feet, or the potential to hit your head on the pole or whatever. That's what it was. But now it's a lot different. Now I think you're a lot smarter. You are comfortable with who you are, as a player. And there's nothing timid about you. I mean, we can teach you how to be a goalkeeper, but what we can't teach you is how to be mentally strong. You have to have that, and then we can feed into that. It's, as I said, short memory and thick skin as part of it. So I would say, you got to be mentally tough. You have to be somewhat of an athlete, because then everything else can get taught to you in a way that is perfectly designed for you as a goalkeeper. So I don't know if that answered what you're looking for, but that's my opinion. Again, there'll be other goalkeeper coaches, other coaches that would say things differently, but from my experience and what I have found success in as a player and as a coach, is I think being mentally strong, not being frustrated. I see a lot of kids that they're not getting it correct the first time or the second time or the third time, and they get frustrated and they don't want to do it anymore. So you have to be persistent. You're going to reach your potential. And a lot of that goes back to just being mentally there. So.
Absolutely. So, okay, so we're done with this section. I'm going to give you a few minutes at the end, but we've come up with a name for my last section. And so we're going to call it overtime, because why not, right? These are just last little quick questions that I'm going to throw at you. They're very random. They're not meant to be super long explanations. But that's kind of like overtime. We're playing sports. Why not have a sports name theme? So here we go. Right. Here's overtime.
Okay, I'll do my best.
First question. What position would you have played if not in goal?
Well, I think any goalkeeper wants to be a striker. They want to score the goals, I think. So I think it would have been, if I was better on the field with my feet, I think I'd want to be Ronaldo. Doesn't everybody play Ronaldo on FIFA? I mean, so I think I'd want to be Ronaldo. I'd want to score goals.
What part of practice do you hate the most when you were a player?
Oh, yeah. Certainly, I think it's the conditioning. When you're a younger player, even I think it was the conditioning. And again, as I alluded to earlier in this podcast, I just didn't enjoy the running. That's why, goalkeeper became very exciting for me. So I think it was the physical conditioning, the calisthenics that I disliked very much.
Secretly, I think that's one of the reasons my daughter likes goalie. Even though she's extremely fast, I think she would just prefer to.
But see, this goes back to what I said about the goalkeeper is extremely smart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very, very. She's a little smart one.
Yeah.
Do you have any pre-game rituals, whether you're coaching or playing, or superstitious habits like wearing your two different mismatched socks or anything like that?
So obviously, as a goalkeeper, for me personally, there's always a little superstition. The left guard and sock went on first, then the right guard and the right sock, and I would tape it up. Tuck my jersey in. It had to be ever so perfect. The left glove went on, then the right glove, and then Velcro, and then maybe do that again or whatever. That was, as the player, that was it. And then spit and wipe. That was it as the player. As a coach, it's a lot of, have I prepared enough? I don't think I have any superstitions or anything like that. Excuse me. So I'm a man of faith, so I'll say a prayer that nobody gets hurt and that there's success and that we're learning from this. But I think I was more pregame ritual as a player than I was as a coach.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you rather have coached a pro player when they were young or have a winning season with a team?
Probably coach a player when they were younger. I mean, excuse me, if you coach long enough or play long enough, you're going to have a winning season. But the opportunity to have an experience and to influence, however so small, a player who went on to the highest level, I think as a coach, that's something that most would want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a question, and realize, everybody listening, I do know Brad's wife. Do you think your wife watched when you had a direct penalty kick coming at you?
Wow. I think she did. And to be honest with you, when I had a lot of them when I was playing at the higher levels. Wow, that's a good question. I've never asked her that. She went to my games. I'm assuming she watched.
I could just see, like, first of all, your wife's pretty tough. So by all means, I'm not gonna put this on her, but like I know when there's direct kicks on my kid, there's almost a tendency to do this, right?
Yeah.
And I was just curious because at a high level, those balls are coming at you 100 plus miles per hour.
I don't think she was ever worried about me getting hurt. I think she was, because she knew how intense I was as a player,
Okay.
and how competitive I was, and I hated to lose, and especially on that penalty kick. It's me against you, and I'm not supposed to stop the ball. You're supposed to score the goal. So I think she knew how much I wanted to make the save or to stop the kid or the player from scoring the goal. Um, that I think, and I wish she was here to answer it. I think she watched intently, because if it went in and she saw my reaction, she knew what the car drive home was going to be like. So yeah, she's tough. And to go back to what you said, knowing Kelly, we had gone ice skating one uh, Friday, and she caught an edge and landed on her elbow. Um, and come to find out later that it was broken, but we never went. She never wanted to go to the hospital because I had a game the next day. So she sat in the bleachers,
Oh, jeez.
watched my game with a broken arm, and then after that said, I think we need to go to the hospital. So yeah,
That's
her.
awesome.
That's the intensity that she carries, and
Yeah, she definitely has a lot of power behind her too. So
yeah. So I think she
When-
would. I think she would watch intently to see what happens.
when if she listens to this, we'll have to get her reaction. Maybe you post
Yeah.
it somewhere on our Facebook
Okay.
page or something, just as a reaction. Say, this is what she said.
Yeah.
I didn't really get a chance to talk about the 5-finger save, right?
Right. 5FS. Yeah.
I think it's a great program. I read a lot about it when you first were coming out with that. I think I was one of your first followers. I love the philosophy. I love the fact that you're offering that, because there's not a lot of that, right?
Right.
So coaching, anybody in the area can go onto that and set up sessions with you. I think that's a wonderful program. Please feel free to plug it. This is your last couple minutes to just
Sure.
kind of chat about what that philosophy is about. And then if there's any last minute things you'd like to say, please.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks, Matt, for having me. This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I think it's going to lend to a lot of players and coaches for that matter. But I would say coming in to anything, attitude and effort, a passion for any player, because if you don't have and some athleticism, because if you don't have any of that, then everything else just sort of is for naught. Because coaches, as good coaches, they can teach you the tactical and the technical, but you have to have the attitude and the effort. So I just wanted to put that out there.
That's a common theme, everybody. Every coach has said that.
Yeah, it really is. Everything else we can teach you, but if you have if your attitude isn't in line with what everybody else is doing, it's noticeable, and it can be detrimental to the team and you as a player, and the effort as well. And I always plug passion, because if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, then how much fun is it going to be for you or anybody else? But as far as 5-finger save, how it got started was, as a club coach coming up, I saw that the pool of goalkeepers in the area at the time was really shallow. There weren't goalkeepers, and the ones that were in there just were there because their coach wanted them to be there. So it came about where there were some parents that were talking to me saying, my son now I think really wants to be a goalkeeper, but they're not getting what they need at the clubs, i.e. they're not getting the personal attention to their level. So do you think you can help my kid out? Sure, I can. Then it just came about where, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to dive headfirst into it, and I'm going to go all the way.
Unintended.
Yeah, exactly. And 5-finger save came about. And I started off with 3 goalkeepers. Now I have a dozen goalkeepers from clubs all over the world, even South Bend, Indiana, that are coming in, and it's teaching a unique position, because that's what it is. It's a unique position, and so I can feed into these kids having the relatability of being in that position, and teaching them, you're a leader on the field, but you're also a leader off the field. And you're representing your family, you're representing yourself, you're representing your club, and you're representing your high school. But it's a niche position, and that's what we teach specifically, because the sessions are geared entirely different than a field session. And so, as I said earlier, you can't just throw a goalkeeper in there and pound balls at them and think that they're going to learn anything. So it's been around for about 2 years. And I've got kids from U10 all the way up to, seniors in high school, working individually with them, and training them in the specifics as best I can. So it's the number 5fingersave.com. So the number 5fingersave.com, and you'll find information on there. And hopefully you'll come and check it out. Give me, hit me up, talk, whatever, but I'll be there. And if I'm not, I'm on the pitch somewhere doing something.
Excellent. Coach Brad, I appreciate you coming out. Best of luck for the upcoming seasons.
Thanks, man.
And, I know that you're taking over as assistant coach for the high school as well. And
right,
good luck with that.
Yep, the assistant varsity coach, I'm looking forward to that experience, but also more directly the program-wide goalkeeper coach. So now I've got, whereas I was just coaching the JV boys last year, now this year I've really got all pardon the pun, all 5 fingers into my goalkeepers, some of whom have been part of my 5 fingers save for a while. So so that's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to the next several years for this.
Well, I wish you luck up until my daughter hits high school, and then then not so much. How's that?
Yeah, it'll be fun. Hey, I'm sure she's a great girl and very talented. She's got a great dad, so it's all going to work out.
I appreciated that. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you listening to this episode. Check out 5 Finger Save, and again, come back next week. We're going to have another coach. I've got a handful of coaches lined up, some pretty exciting. I think we're even going to start branching out from soccer with a couple as well. I can't wait to kind of move to that direction as well and kind of hear other aspects of the game. Again, this is Coach Matt with the Coach's Handbook, and see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
This the best time. Why you wanna be an outcast? Numbers don't lie, you gain a lot from this math class. It takes time to be great, you can learn the lesson. Blood, sweat, and tears, heartbeat of a champion. Big or small, your heart is the biggest weapon. So follow before you lead, and water and plant your seeds. When it's all said and done, you be the best they ever seen. So listen to my catalog on the